Hey everyone, Matt Smyers, Tanner Jones here with Consult Webs. We are excited to be able to share a topic that has been coming up almost daily, and that's around local services ads. This is basically where Google has added a new platform for specific verticals within legal, specifically personal injury, but there's also family law, estate planning. There's a number of other practice areas available for this platform, and it is a structure based on cost per lead instead of cost per click. Those of you who may have been advertising with Google pay per click, you've always paid per click just to get traffic to the site. So this platform now is offering law firm advertisers the ability to pay on an individual lead, and that's what's got a lot of firms excited about it. We're seeing some early success throughout the country, enough so to get everyone's attention on an attractive cost per case in many instances. So that's exactly what we want to talk about. Matt Smyers, my colleague here, he is our digital advertising advisor. He's the one who's kind of been in the trenches in this particular topic, talking with a lot of law firms throughout the country on what they're seeing and what he's seeing. And so he comes with a wealth of experience and expertise in this area. And so I'm excited to have you here, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Tanner. As you said, big topic, very exciting. There's been quite a bit of interest and demand over the past couple of months with this new product, and excited to kind of dive into what we've been learning, and it has been a learning experience for all of us over these last couple of months.
Yeah, no question about that. And so what I'd like to do real quick, Matt, knowing that people are coming in and listening to this, I guess from a variety of perspectives, some of which may not even necessarily know exactly what local services ads are. Some may already be in it and actively running it. So let me do a quick screen share and show the folks exactly what we're talking about here. I'm just going to do a search in Dallas for a car accident lawyer, very common search. Lots of search volume for that particular term, and you can see Google actually serving up now very visual ads, showcasing reviews alongside them. We'll talk about that momentarily, but reviews play a huge role in getting users' attention and encouraging click-through rates. Google is obviously very smart about that. They follow the data closely, and so they have incorporated those reviews. Now, the majority of those reviews, if not all the reviews, are coming directly from your local Google My Business profile. We're going to talk a little bit about that later, but that's where those reviews are being driven from. Once a user clicks into these ads, they'll have the ability to convert right directly from this page. And so once they convert, by calling the number, you would then pay as the law firm advertiser per lead, and that per lead average is ranging, and we're going to talk about that with Matt Smyers. So that's a good quick overview on what exactly local services ads are. It's at the top of the real estate. There's a lot of interesting studies coming out with that, and it's so new for a lot of law firm advertisers that many advertisers are learning, certainly as they go. So Matt, let's go ahead and hop in, address some of these common questions that we're getting. Can you speak really specifically to the landscape? And I have some feedback on this as well, but what do you see? That's the big question. Firms who are investing online, whether it be SEO, pay-per-click, anywhere online, you're obviously interested to see what Google's doing here. What do you think? And what does this landscape look like to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when this product was first released, I know there were some people in the industry that, were getting pretty excited about it, and saying that this was going to take away all of the essentially all of the search traffic, both from organic and from PPC, and I don't think that's quite the case. In fact, the one study that we've looked at is showing that as of now it looks like about 15% of the traffic is being taken away from organic and paid. Now that's a significant amount of traffic and going into LSAs. But I think another early assumption was that all of that, or that the bulk of that traffic was going to be taken away from pay-per-click, and that doesn't appear to be the case either. It really looks like that 15% is being distributed or taken away pretty evenly between the organic results and PPC results. So, we kind of suspected Google was not about to cannibalize their own pay-per-click. Pay-per-click is still going strong. We've had some clients that have been testing the local service ads without making any reduction in budget to their PPC, just to make sure that we're getting a true apples to apples comparison. And what we're finding by and large is that the LSAs are not really taking away a whole lot in terms of PPC budget. If it's distributed pretty evenly between organic and paid, you're not likely to notice much of a difference, a few percentage points here and there in your paid traffic on a monthly basis because of the presence of the LSAs. Now, that said, as you showed, just looking at the ad itself, this is prime real estate for Google. And obviously they're charging for it. And they're looking for firms that are willing to essentially pay a premium for that real estate. So we're excited about the opportunity and we're seeing some early success.
Mhm.
And it's a place that we definitely recommend our clients, try to have a presence because as always, we're trying to encourage our clients to own as much of the Google real estate as possible.
That's right. That's big. And I agree with you. I mean, the study you pointed out, it was a study specifically on service industries like plumbers, electricians, and so it's not a direct apples to apples or correlation to legal by any means, but it's still hugely valuable just to keep an eye on that and monitor how it has ultimately impacted, good or bad, other industries. It's still very early to be telling anything in terms of legal, but certainly something we're keeping a close eye on. I do think that just to address the piece, if you're investing in search engine optimization, we strongly encourage you to continue that strategy, assuming that it has been profitable for you. Of course, we see that a lot of search traffic is long tail traffic, broad search, people doing research and investigating certain things. It's an incredible way to drive qualified traffic to your site. And even still, I mean, the majority of traffic is their users are still clicking on organic results. And I think that's the important thing, is that it should be seen as a global picture. You should never ideally get so focused on one particular strategy and miss the holistic type campaign, which ultimately produces the best results from what we've found. That's a big point to stress. But moving on to some of these other questions, because we're getting a pretty wide range of these questions from attorneys about local services ads, and one is around bidding strategies, Matt. When you get in, Google offers an estimated range, what you're going to pay per lead.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of law firms are struggling with how to even manage this in terms of a bidding. Is there a bidding strategy? Google seems to have simplified this platform quite a bit. What's your take on that?
Yeah. So before I dive into too much detail on the bidding strategies, I'll kind of lay out a little bit of a history of how these ads were first set up and what Google has been telling everyone are kind of the determining factors in whether they're going to deliver your ad. And then we'll get a little bit more into the bidding strategy, which has changed relatively recently. So when the product was first released, there were three factors that came into play in ranking factors to determine where in that pack that Tanner had showed, where your ad is going to show, if it's going to show there at all. The first is your reviews. So the number of reviews you have and your average rating. And Tanner's going to dive into some, kind of tips and tricks that we've learned about the reviews along the way. The second is your responsiveness. So the way these ads are set up, it's a direct phone call from your firm from the ad, which is unique. So it's not, sure, there's tap to call and PPC, but the phone call is really the primary way for the user to contact the firm directly from the ad. And all those calls are being housed and recorded inside your Google LSA profile. And so Google has direct access to them and they know whether you're responding to and answering these phone calls. So your responsiveness is a key to whether or not Google is going to deliver more ads, which makes sense because Google is kind of putting their neck out there and saying, we've screened these law firms on your behalf. And there's a level of trust that they're looking to establish with the user. So they want to make sure that you're being responsive to the ad. And then the third ranking factor originally was your proximity or the user's proximity to your business. So the closer they are to the physical address of your business, and it's the address based on your Google My Business. So if you have multiple GMB Google My Business listings, you can set up separate LSA profiles for each. And Google's going to take into consideration the physical proximity of the user to your business when delivering the ad. So those were the three primary factors initially when that Google was using to determine how and when they were going to deliver your ad. And originally, you didn't have an option in terms of bidding. So all you could do was set a budget. And Google would say, okay, we're going to take this budget and we're going to spread that out over the course of weeks or a month. And we're going to deliver you ads based on that budget. Well, relatively recently, they added a more manual strategy. This has probably been, I don't know, maybe 60 days. They've added a more manual bid strategy, which is much more similar to PPC in that you now have the ability to go in and based on your practice area and the different job types that you're trying to secure leads for, you can go in and bid per lead. And what that's done is created this fourth ranking factor. So much like PPC now, how and when Google shows your ad can be determined by how much you're willing to bid. They don't tell us how much they weight these four factors. We do have some anecdotal evidence coming in more and more every week from firms in multiple markets who are saying, I've got more reviews than this competitor. I'm searching from within a half a mile of my office, and I'm still not showing up in as high a position as a firm from, let's say, 50 miles, away in a larger market, who is clearly just kind of cranking up the bids. So I think the concern at the moment is, is Google weighing that more heavily than they are the other factors and really turning this into more of a pay to play type strategy. I'm not convinced that that's the case yet. But, we'll just have to see as time goes on, how that plays out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what we all anticipated. Google originally released seemingly a very simple platform, and I suggested that Google is constantly changing. They're rarely standing still with their platforms and what they're producing out there, and for good. They're continuing to make it better and improve it, and ultimately, priority number one, generate revenue from themselves. And so they've continued to evolve this platform, and I think it really presents some really unique opportunities for law firms who either want to spend the time and trying to stay ahead of it, or find a group who's credible and able to manage that for them. So I guess, can you give a sense for those who may not be in local services ads right now, what would a firm expect to pay using
Yeah.
local services ads, and maybe give some examples there?
Well, sure. Yeah, I'll provide you with one number today, and then we can talk tomorrow and see if it
Yeah,
hasn't
sure.
doubled.
Yeah.
What we've seen, and I'm exaggerating some, but not much. We have seen, for personal injury in particular, we have seen maximum bids, increasing almost daily. Now, is that will eventually settle, right? Firms will get to a point where they say, I'm no longer willing to pay this much for a lead. But right now it's still pretty much wide open, and in markets where firms have been a little bit slower to jump in, we're seeing that as new firms come into the market and are willing to spend more, those bids continue to increase. And just by way of example, a $45 to $50 cost per lead or bid, max per lead bid for personal injury maybe a month ago in certain markets, depending on how saturated the market was, that would probably wind up getting you some leads. Now what we're seeing is, bids upwards of $150, $200 now are really what it takes to be competitive.
Very interesting. Yeah, and you're right. It's gonna continue to shift. You could have some other law firms stepping in, constantly evolving that, changing that up. But I think the biggest thing in the mindset of most advertisers we've spoken to is really just take advantage of this window. If it does catch on, and we all have kind of a high degree of confidence that that's what's going to happen, why not get ahead of it and take advantage of the lowest cost per lead, lowest cost per client acquisition as possible?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for us, when we first saw the product, one of the big questions we had was, what are the quality of these leads going to be like? We deal with this day in and day out from both an SEO and a PPC standpoint, and we're constantly measuring, the quality of our leads and the conversion rate of those leads into cases for our clients. And so it was definitely for us, we were curious to see what would the quality of the leads be like? What was Google doing behind the scenes in order to put these ads out in front of a high quality audience that was going to generate quality leads. So far, the reviews are mixed on the quality of the leads, but I would say overall they've been pretty fairly positive. I think what Google is likely doing, and we can just see this just from conducting searches on our own, is they're going after the keywords, the PPC keywords that have generated in our accounts and accounts all around the country that have generated the most leads and the most conversions. So and have the highest bids, which is easy data for them to get their hands on because they control it all, right? So, I think what Google has done is they've just targeted those highly coveted keywords, knowing that that's likely to generate more quality leads. So far the quality of the leads have been pretty good, and the cost per case. Again, I wish I could say I know I could pinpoint for you the cost per case and what your expectations are. It's varying by market so widely right now that it's hard to say. But I can just tell you from our experience for personal injury, motor vehicle accident cases, we've seen cost per case as low as $200-300 early on in a campaign, and now starting to kind of creep up and settle into the $1,000 plus range, but still pretty competitive.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, especially for personal injury firms, anything under $1,500 in most instances is going to be extremely attractive. And so I would strongly
Absolutely.
encourage you, if you're not looking at it right now, absolutely would strongly encourage you to look into that.
Yeah,
The
and for non Tanner, just to interrupt there for a
Sure.
second, for non-personal injury practice areas, family law and some others, we are seeing a much lower cost per lead. I think those firms so far have been slower to adopt
Hmm.
and to get into the
Good point.
marketplace.
Hmm.
PI firms are typically, when it comes to advertising, are going to be the first in. When there's a new product, a new offering.
Right.
So I think there is opportunity there for non-personal injury practice areas to really get a leg up and get some lower cost leads. The quality of those leads, and this is typical with family law anyway. It really varies, and I think that's going to depend on the firm. What type of divorce case are you willing to take? I think what we're seeing, and this is not uncommon with PPC either, in a practice area like that, is the quality of those leads, or at least the potential revenue from those leads, are not quite as high. We're not seeing the super high net worth divorce cases coming in through the LSAs at this time.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. I want to leave all the viewers with one final piece related to the reviews. You talked about how the reviews absolutely play a role, or send a signal in terms of local services ad rank position, and we've seen some of that, but we've also seen firms kind of get so frustrated they may have hundreds of Google My Business reviews tied to their Google My Business listing, which is ultimately being funneled into that local services ads. But they're seeing other competitors with less reviews in their market consistently outposition them in local services ads. And so one quick tip I'd like to give that I don't think a lot of firms are aware of is that you can get reviews tied directly to the local services ads platform. And I'm going to share my screen here. I think this is so important, especially early. We talked about the window, to take advantage of the window. Now would be the time to really get in and try to build the reviews to your local services ads platform here. I want to show you an example. So when somebody clicks in to your local services ads, they're going to be able to see the reviews here, or they can scroll down and see the reviews here. What I want to point out is that this one here in particular, they're successful at getting reviews directly on this local services ad. And you can see that by what's listed here: service October 2020. Specifies that Google verified job and ties it to the category of the practice type. The reason I want to point this out is that although Google My Business reviews are being pushed into your local services ads, if you're getting reviews directly on your local services ads, like what you see here, they are not actually turning around and being pushed back into the Google My Business listing. They are staying exclusive to your local services ads platform. we have reason to believe that these are going to be seen as much more valuable from a local services ad standpoint, because it's essentially using Google's platform the way it's intended, what they're looking for. They're looking to verify these jobs. They're putting their name behind it, being Google backed or Google screened. And so allowing reviews to be funneled through this platform, we believe will continue to make a positive influence in your overall campaign. Now, there are quick tips on getting quick links directly to that local services ads platform. So to make it easy as possible for your clients or your users to leave a review directly here, there's a way to grab that custom link. And so I've created a quick tutorial on how to do that. Feel free to reach out to us. I'm happy to send it over to you. You can just go to consultwebs.com, fill out a contact form, or call us directly, and we'll pass it along to you there. But as we wrap up here, Matt, I know we've covered a lot of topics related to this exciting platform. Any other thoughts in your mind or things to kind of wrap up with?
Yeah, and when the platform was rolled out, I know it was kind of presented as this is the very simple set it and forget it version of a Google PPC campaign. Anybody that's ever spent any time inside of a Google Ads account understands how incredibly complex that is, and how much time it takes in order to run a successful PPC campaign. I think this was really billed as, hey, any advertiser can do this. You set it up, you plug it in one time, and you forget about it, and the leads will come rolling in. You never have to worry about it again. I wish it were that simple, but it's not. What we're finding is that, especially now that they've added in the ability to create manual bids, we're finding that these campaigns take a lot more time to manage than you would imagine. Granted, it's still not as complex as a Google Ads PPC campaign, but nonetheless, if you're going to do it right and you want to make the most of your budget, you have to dedicate pretty significant time to it. And we're learning constantly through the campaigns that we're managing just some of the small tips and tricks and tweaks that you could make to these campaigns and tests that you can run in order to kind of get them to where they're optimized, not unlike a PPC campaign. And because the platform is changing so quickly, I think it's important to stay on top of it, understand how it works when you make a change to a bid, when you make a change to a job type, when you make a change to any of your business setting options. What impact does that have on the campaign? Little things like, if you're running a PPC campaign and you're going to run out of money for the day, you can set up alarms in a PPC campaign for Google Ads to tell you you're running out of budget for the day. The LSA campaigns don't allow you to do that. We kind of found out really the hard way through one of our clients that Google's going to take your budget and they're going to spread it out evenly, more or less, over 30 days. So if you're running out of what they consider to be your daily budget, to the point where they don't think you can bid to win a lead, what they do is they move your ad out of those top 3 positions and they put it in to kind of the extended list. They move it almost all the way to the bottom, and they'll take away your Google screen verification. And their hope is nobody's going to click on it because you don't have enough budget for that day to pay for another lead. That takes some time. That takes manual attention and some level of detail to understand how these campaigns work in order to really get them to be effective. So again, certainly much simpler than a Google Ads campaign, but still something that requires a level of expertise and time to manage appropriately, especially given the significant budgets that firms are putting towards these campaigns. You want to make sure that you're being smart with your money.
Mm-hmm. I think that's important, and hopefully that's encouraging to a lot of the listeners too, and that it's not every firm can jump in and be ultimately successful with these platforms, which it allows for competitive advantages, and that's really what it comes down to. I go back to the window and really taking advantage of an opportunity when it's in front of firms, and that's really the hope for today, is just to continue to keep everyone updated on what we're seeing with this. Certainly, we want to continue to provide some more updates as we continue to learn more and more about this and the cost per leads, and start really understanding the averages of actual cost per case scenarios from market to market throughout the country. So stay tuned, please. If you have other questions submitted to us, we'll be happy to produce another video or talk with you directly. Certainly, if there's areas that you want to dive into with your own account, Matt would be happy to set up a consultation with you to dive into that on a one-on-one basis. We appreciate the time. Thanks so much,
Thanks,
Matt.
everyone.